The time is 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call the special meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is public comment, but for this evening, we have no public comments pertaining to the agenda. So we're going to go ahead and skip right by that item. Number 3 is information and discussion. And this evening, Marlene Carroll is going to walk us through a third-party survey partnership. Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you, Chair Hawkins, Board of Directors. All right. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about our third-party survey partnership with Huron Studer Education. The purpose of using a third-party survey company to gather feedback, and our spring survey launch and process, and then our next steps for you all. Okay, so Studer Education is a third-party survey company that works with districts to provide surveys to gain perception feedback and data. In addition to the survey implementation and analysis, they work with the leadership team and the board to kind of review these 9 principles for organizational excellence that align to our mission, vision, and values here in Sherwood. And they help us really tie the feedback to what we're doing around our strategic planning, our school improvement goals, and they work with not just our administrators, but our entire leadership and to implement some of those things we're hearing from our stakeholders. Okay. So there's a few reasons why you want to use a third-party survey company. For years, Sherwood has not used a third-party survey company. We've really created our own. That creates additional challenges. We don't really have the central office staffing to go through the analysis process, which means we really have a hard time taking the feedback and then using it to drive improvement practices. And so some of the benefits of the third-party survey company is we can get authentic feedback from our community members. This one will be employees and parents, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. It's reliable. They can track the data over time because they use a set of valid and reliable questions. And then when we look at those and they go out every year, they don't change regularly like our current surveys do. Then we can look at those over time and really look at our outcomes and measurements over time. Feedback is usually easier to understand when somebody, a professional, compiles it for you, and then you get to see it. And so you can act upon data when it's easy to access. This company works with districts all across the nation. And so one of the benefits of it is we can actually look at districts that are similar to ours, and we can see where they're scoring, and we can kind of rank ourselves. So if we're underperforming in an area that's similar to another district across the nation, we can look and say, okay, well, what is that district doing, and how do we leverage what they're doing? Maybe it applies to us, and we can apply those learnings from that. And so that's really nice. Whenever we can do that national scope and look, then we can kind of leverage similar strategies to improve. And then finally, the school board and community is typically more satisfied when we have a third party, because sometimes what happens is we're creating the questions and we're sharing the results. And although they're valid, you don't know if the questions are valid or reliable. They're not like peer reviewed. They're not given to a variety of different comparison groups like a third party survey is. So those are some of the reasons why. It also creates some, when you do a third-party survey and you say this survey is anonymous, sometimes that is more valuable when it comes from a third party than when it comes from, the teaching and learning Google account or, right? It just brings it just is a little bit more, it takes a step back from the district central office. And that that third party survey is kind of handling the anonymity of the survey. Was there a question? Much more neutral, right? Okay. All right, so I wanted to share a little bit about Studer specifically and why we looked at this company and eventually ended up choosing this company. So Studer really specifies that it is not just a survey company, but they work with leadership to do continuous improvement and take the survey feedback. They initiate the survey, they send it out, they provide the feedback, and then they work with us on our strategic planning. And they provide leadership coaching. So they provide leadership coaching for our building leaders, our district office staff, and they're really trying to not just improve the student and parent caregiver experience, but they're also trying to create a work-friendly environment. So they're trying to help us improve our employee experience as well. In the spring, we are planning on surveying employees with this survey. And then we will also survey parent and caregiver experience. And so those are the two surveys that are going out in this spring. We have the opportunity to do a district feedback survey and a student survey. Those will likely happen next school year. It's a lot of data to do all four at the same time. And so we'll focus on these two priority areas, and then next fall, we'll kind of implement the other two. Okay. So Studer uses a 6 core components of like district-wide organizational framework to support implementation of the survey. And the bold areas are kind of where we're starting from because we haven't done a survey yet. So we have to start there. So we'll implement the surveys and then we'll get some leadership coaching from the company on what are the areas, what are our results, and how do we create school improvement plans and district department improvement plans targeting those areas. We'll work with the board on integrating it because really these are your goals ultimately. The work that we're doing in the buildings are what you are sharing with us. And then you'll see like 1, 2, and 3, that will kind of happen next year. And as we implement our plans, and this is new to Sherwood. So in Sherwood, we don't usually do a short cycle strategy development. We're constantly working on our goals. We share them with you at the beginning of the year, and then we're kind of going through them bit by bit. This really takes it and does like a 30, 60, 90-day plan with us. And it shortens the goals. We look at them differently, and they provide that coaching to support us in that work. And then we share them with you and our progress. And so this is a graphic that is just really all about the continuous improvement cycle. We are working on getting down to the root cause, and that's hopefully what the survey data is sharing with us. And then the rollout, then we do the action planning, and hopefully it is increasing our achievement, increasing our improvement process and cycle. All right, the next steps. So we need some support for you, and we have some homework for you. In your survey or in your board packets, you have the survey items that go out. Those are the nationally normed survey items. Those are on yellow paper. So those will go out. But in addition to that, there are items on the white papers that we would like you to look through and make a star by the items that you think are important that you want us to include in the survey. And then give them to Dr. Lyon because we will submit those to the company, preferably by the end of day tomorrow. We're on a quick timeline. Questions? The white ones are additional items that they allow us to add, and we don't want to add them all. But we do want to choose ones that are relevant and important to you that you think need to be included in this survey.
Are you talking about just like generalized sections, or do you mean actual questions?
I mean, actual questions.
Okay.
Because even when we did this process with the administrative team as well. And even when we looked through them, we gathered, Dr. Lyon, was it 2? We added 2, I think 2 questions total, if I remember correctly from that group.
And let me also say from that, we've already
Yes.
decided on the
Yes.
parent caregiver survey. At the very end, there are superintendent items 1 and 2, and we intend to include that in the survey.
And that does not count as our 2 that we added, but we
Right.
just
So you don't have to
assume
worry about those.
we would want those.
They're already there.
Yeah.
Don't pay any attention to the state, California, Missouri. The
Yes.
question is what counts, not
The question
state
is what
working.
counts exactly. So some states, they actually, that Studer is working with, and school districts in those states, they have some surveys that are getting grants. Not unlike us. We just, when we put demographic questions on there, that's a grant funding opportunity for us. So that's why we ask that question, is because then for our integrated guidance, that's one grant. The literacy grant, you kind of have to add that information of who's taking the survey. California and Missouri have specific questions that they are required for grant funding. And so but the questions are good and they're still nationally normed because people are using them. So that's why we've included them in the selection.
I think since it's not a hard task, we'll just all plan to do it while we're here this evening and get it back to you before
Thank
we
you.
take off. I just want to say, I love this. I had no idea how much a poorly designed survey was a trigger for me, but it just is. And they're not very easy to craft well. So I really like that we are putting a little bit of funding towards putting out a good quality survey. And I think from teachers, I have heard this from teachers so many times that they've said, yeah, right, it's anonymous, like they just don't feel
Yep.
comfortable. And so I love adding this extra layer because ultimately we want their honest feedback.
Yes.
And so, and I like the coaching that comes with it. I like the feedback and the tools. It's worthless to do research if you have nothing to do with that data afterwards. So, I think all of these things are very, very, very good. So I appreciate you bringing this forward to us.
Yeah, we're very excited as well.
Oh, is that, you may have mentioned it, but I got distracted reading the questions.
That's fine.
Are you planning on, is this a yearly thing now? Is we're just gonna continually collect this data to
Well,
cycle back on it?
we would like to do it yearly, yes.
Okay.
So we've only purchased 1 year, but we would like to, and our year is really it's really a year and a half essentially is what we've purchased. And the answer is yes, we would like to do that if we can afford it. And that would be definitely a priority of ours.
Well, I highly support these kinds of efforts. I think writing good surveys and collecting this kind of data is very, very hard.
Yeah.
And getting a good, understanding of your climate and what's going on in your schools and any organization is so important. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm glad you guys are doing this. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? No. Thank you so much. Moving right along to Mr. Emmert. He has some renewal of personnel contracts for 2024, 2025.
Good evening, Board Chair Hawken and Board. Due to RS 342805, district school boards are required to provide written notice of renewal or non-renewal of contracts for all probationary teachers and administrators by March 15th. This evening, the board is asked to approve the resolution of contracts for licensed and administrative staff as listed.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
Chair Hawkins, I motion to approve the resolutions for renewal and non-renewal of licensed and administrator contracts as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. Up next, we have some business items that we need to take care of with regards to our new superintendent search. So the first item on the board is that we need to be willing to declare this position vacant. Dr. Lyon has already announced that he will be retiring as of June 30th, 2024. So in order for us to move forward with the executive search process, our board must take action to officially declare the vacancy of this position commencing on July 1st, 2024. Does anyone move to declare the superintendent position vacant?
I recommend that we move to declare the superintendent position vacant and effective July 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Additionally, the board must approve the search timeline for the superintendent vacancy. This timeline includes community engagement, the posting of the position, the closing of the application window, application screening, and an identified date to take action on the hiring of the selected finalist candidate. Please note that there are some dates later in the process that are still to be determined to provide flexibility in interview scheduling. Is there a motion to adopt the superintendent search timeline?
I motion that there is an adoption of the superintendent search timeline as presented.
Thank you, Hans. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And just as a side note, for anybody that might be listening, that survey did go out today. So please check your mailbox, your email box if you'd like to participate in that. We would love for you to participate in that. And secondly, the community staff forum has already been scheduled for March 11th at Archer Glen from 6:30 to 8. And we would love to have you in attendance that evening as well. Finally, the board is tasked with determining the salary range for this position. Our district has received information from an analysis of superintendent salaries from comparable school districts, and based on that analysis, there is a recommendation for the annual salary range for this position to be $220,000 to $235,000, plus a benefits package to be determined through contract negotiation. Is there a motion to approve an annual salary range?
I recommend the motion that we move to approve an annual salary range of $220,000 to $235,000 plus a to be determined benefits package for the position of superintendent of the Sherwood School District.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. With that, we have covered all the business things we needed to take care of this evening. The next regular business meeting of the board will be held on March 20th, 2024. Thank you. This meeting's adjourned.